Hey, welcome back to, this is still the American Jesus show. I just have completely lost my mind. I want to kind of learn this program, and hopefully over time, this will get better. As a perfectionist, I could have continued to kind of make this look nice and good, but obviously I didn't do that, and so here we are. This is terrible, I know. Today I want to talk about statistics versus anecdotal evidence. As soon as you start critiquing AA or any other 12-step fellowship, some jackass is invariably going to come along and say something like, well, how do you know it doesn't work? Where is the evidence? Why this is so utterly humorous to me is that this generally happens in the middle of a meeting, surrounded by the very evidence that the individual is asking for. It's like, someone coming up to me and going, how do you know the building's on fire? Where is your evidence? And I'm like, I don't know. Gee, look around. All the flames and the smoke. And, you're actually on fire right now. Right now, you're on fire, asking me how I know that there's a fire. Now, just to kind of draw that metaphor in, what I'm saying is that, these are people that probably have relapsed multiple times or having a hard time staying clean, and they're like, how do you know it doesn't work? And I'm like, you, for one, I know it doesn't work because of you, because you can't seem to get it, and I've seen you and I've watched you try. I am a person that believes in research and the scientific method. I studied biology for a very long time in college until I met organic chemistry and decided that we weren't going to get along. And it would be nice if we had numbers. It would be nice if we had proof, if we had statistics that we could point at. The problem is that organizations like Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous both refuse to let outside organizations take such numbers, do any research at all. So, what do? Well, you are forced to kind of look at the anecdotal evidence to draw a conclusion. If we look at AA, AA has been around for just a tremendously long time. 83 years, and NA has been around for 63 years, and you are really hard pressed to go to a meeting and find a lot of people with, 40 years clean in either fellowship. If the success rate was anything like what the literature says, and if the success rate was anything, you would be tripping over people with at least 20 years clean, or sober, because it means the same thing. So one of the things you can do is go to a convention. And at most conventions, they'll have something that they'll term like a clean time countdown, or, stand up or whatever. And that's where people stand up. They'll start at a large number, usually somewhere around 50 years, and then they'll kind of go down when, and they'll say, 49, 48, blah, 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 blah. Invariably, from 30 years up, it's sparse pickings out of everyone at the convention. And you need to understand that the people at the convention are most likely going to be people with a lot of time, because they can go to a convention. Generally, they're asked to speak at conventions, but they can go to a convention, they can throw their time around, they can impress people. And so you see actually a unusually large number of people with a significant amount of clean time at the conventions, because that is like where they get to showcase their recovery or whatever. Generally, and you say, hey, what's the success rate? What would you say? 30-40% of people that come through the rooms get, 3 decades, and most people will be like people that really like the fellowship, they really believe in the fellowship, they will say no. What they'll generally do is they'll start flip-flopping around and saying, well, you can't, you never know what can happen and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, it's funny. Maybe you should rewrite the book, and as opposed to saying, rarely have we seen a person fail, you should put in, hey, you never know what's going to happen. But I don't think that is going to convince anybody to give you a donation, to commit themselves to the program. But that is the reality. And so that's one piece of anecdotal evidence. Another piece of anecdotal evidence is the fact that how many people, if you're not in recovery, how many of you actually know someone that's been a success for years and decades in the fellowships? I mean, you would have tripped over somebody. Now, what the steppers, I guess that's what we call them now, what the steppers would say is that, oh, well, that's why we have anonymity, because we don't want people knowing, who has a lot of clean time or whatever. The traditions state that we should remain, anonymous in press, radio, and film because we relapsed. You do what? You don't want Charlie Sheen going on Oprah and talking about how AA changed his life. Nobody wants Charlie Sheen endorsing them, but, and then 3 days later, he slams into a busload of kindergartners on their way to see Binko the Flying Monkey. I mean, that just would not lend itself to the image that AA and NA and these other organizations are trying to get. The reality of the fact is that most people who go to AA relapse, and many do terrible things, hurt other people, hurt themselves, kill people, and this is not something that you're going to hear anybody in the program say. They'll start talking real fast, and if you get to asking them too many questions, they'll say you're overanalyzing it, and you're arrogant, and it's like, no, I want to make sure I'm in the right fucking place in order to get sober. And if you're telling me that most of these people don't stay sober, then I don't want to be here. I want to be somewhere else that has better numbers and better success rate. If you've left the metaphorical nursery to see what the rest of the world has to offer, then I want to invite you to show confidence in your ability to make sound decisions. You only question yourself because so many people have questioned you before. You've seen with open eyes that the program doesn't work. Regardless of how much they promise to beat your disease, I'm going to get those air quotes sooner or later, we still bury our friends at an alarming rate. The rooms have a pronounced stench of death on them the longer you stay. You'll know more people that died than you'll know that have significant amounts of clean time. With every funeral you attend, you'll have that nagging voice that gets louder over time. And that voice tells you that the person who is now dead worked a stronger program than you, did more than you. They spoke like you speak now. He said, I'm never going to relapse. I'm going to work the steps. I'm going to call my sponsor. He said everything that you say now, and he's dead. And that should worry you. If I'm in a class and they're like saying, hey, this is how you survive in the wilderness, and it's like, the guy that was really paying attention and wrote down everything you were saying and memorized it, he died. And I've been kind of paying attention, but not really, and I've been smoking a lot of cigarettes outside, but I've had some success, and he died before I did, and we came in at the same time, and I just managed to find stuff to eat by fumbling around in the dark, during this nature extravaganza. So if you hear that voice that tells you these things, do not label that voice as your disease and shove it down. Demand answers. If you're still in the fellowship, demand answers. Why are these people dead? Why does this program that works so well work so poorly? And for so few? And most of all, why are you trying to hide this? Well, on a cheery note, I want to invite you to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell and do all that wonderful stuff, because then you can hang out with me as I turn further and further into a crazy cartoon man. Or you can be notified. You gotta hit the bell to be notified, and my cartoon guy will end up getting better and doing more things as I continue to learn this software. But there's many reasons why I do this. First and foremost, we're covering some very dark topics. And I have found that cartoons lend themselves to expressing opinions that are not very popular, because people don't take them seriously. They listen to what they have to say and they think about them, but they don't project any anger towards them because they're just a cartoon. That, and the cartoon me, it looks younger than the real me. So there's also that. But I did want to put something up. This is terrible. I'm still learning the application. I can't get my hands to move yet, but like I said, as a perfectionist, it could have been 16 years before I put something up, and I wanted to put something out there because some of you have been very supportive of what I'm doing, and I didn't want to, I feel a sense of responsibility to some of the people that have come by and have shared their experience with me, be it in the comments of YouTube or be it in the groups that I'm a part of. And yeah, it's good. It's good to know that you're not crazy.
And you're taunting me! And you're taunting me! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it right now! Stop it! Stop it right now! I'm just a little kid. Other side is something big. You think that what you did would bring you back to this?